Good evening. Good evening, everyone. We have a few joining. So we want to give them a moment. Good evening. My name is Carla Gonzalez. I am Director of Admissions at the College for Creative Studies. And I am going to chat with you this evening about preparing yourself or your creative student for art school applications. We do have a good number of people registered for the event. Only a few have shown up, so I just want to give it another maybe minute or so. I would like to invite you to ask for or put your questions rather in the chat. As I go through, I will try and keep up with those. Certainly, I will leave time at the end for questions and answers. And I can review the chat at that point, or we can stop our recording at that point and then have you unmute and ask your questions if you'd like. But I will get started in just a moment here. Okay, so I think let's just go ahead and get started. As I mentioned, we are recording this, so any guests who have registered for this session will receive a link to the recording tomorrow in an email, as well as people who RSVP'd and didn't show up, and that way everybody gets a chance to see the content. We do that for the vast majority of our events, so if there's anything that you were curious about, or if you wanted to take a look through our YouTube video library, you could look up CCS_admissions, and you would find a whole host of videos there for students at every stage of interest, about our application portfolios, about our services and resources on campus, as well as features on our alumni, the different major insights that we've been running. Actually, we ran through October. Those are sessions that our program heads conduct to give you kind of a deeper insight into the major and the types of skills, projects, work the students accomplish in each major. Okay, so take a look there if you'd like to see more, and let's go ahead and get started. So we put this presentation together because we recognize that as students in high school are thinking about, or even, if you are at a community college, when you're thinking about applying to CCS, there is, of course, the portfolio that is a little bit unusual for, any other kind of non-art and design focused school. And so we want to give you some tips and pointers on how to make sure you are prepared. So planning ahead, I think, is a big part of this. We're going to talk a little bit about classes to take and when to take them, ways to help you identify what you like to do. We are encouraging you to research and ask questions. So it's great that you're at this session, but we love when students as young as freshmen or sophomores also participate and ask questions and begin their research, because there is a lot to learn, and that shouldn't be anything to frighten you away, just simply an opportunity to recognize that there are a lot of opportunities at a college like CCS, and we want you to have exposure to as many of them as you can as you're determining if a College of Art and Design is something that would fit you and your career goals. We do, we'll talk a little bit about documenting your work and your experiences as your student looking and working towards applying to college, and then getting ready to apply. So classes and when to take them. One of the things that you should be aware of is that at a high school or at the high school level, you are going to want to take the opportunity to attend or enroll in as many art classes in your school as are available to you. Now, one thing that we often see is that guidance counselors don't always understand that the portfolio is a requirement that needs to be ready for your college applications at the very beginning part of your senior year of high school. Just like all the other students who are applying to colleges right now for fall 22 start term, they are applying to colleges, submitting transcripts, and if you're a senior, you are likely in the throes of this as well. What I like to encourage younger students to do is to have a conversation early with your guidance counselor if you believe that a College of Art and Design might be in your future, to talk about ways to get you into the art or design classes early so that you have the opportunity to create work and get feedback on that work as you are in your freshman, sophomore, and junior years, and not to put it off to senior year. We also encourage you, if you maybe don't have a lot of opportunities to take art or design classes in your high school, is to look at community groups or community programs in your area. CCS does offer some online or on-campus dual enrollment classes, which means you take CCS courses, earn the college credit that would apply towards your degree here at CCS, or could be transferred to another institution if you choose to go elsewhere. But those credits are college credits, and you are creating a lot of work through those courses. And it is work that you could absolutely use in a portfolio. So those are definitely ways to get yourself prepared and ready with the work you need for developing a portfolio. So there are many other types of classes beyond dual enrollment. We have non-credit courses at CCS. You have community colleges that offer college level courses that you could take, whether that's in the summer or during the school year, it's up to you. We also have summer programs as well. You know, we, along with many other colleges of art and design, have summer programs where you can often live on campus for a number of weeks, earn some college credit, again, creating some work, learning a little bit more what it might be like to live and work on a college campus like CCS. Ours is called the Pre-College Summer Experience. It's 3 weeks, typically in July, and you earn 3 college credits that do apply at CCS or can be transferred elsewhere. And that's the same for many summer programs. So if you choose to go to a different college and do their summer program, but then for your actual, 4 college years, you choose a different college, those credits should transfer. You simply need to get a transcript from the school you earn the credits at and send that to the college that you are enrolling in. So there are lots of options. The non-credit courses are typically courses that may be shorter in length than a college course. They may be at a community center, as I mentioned, or colleges will also offer non-credit courses. So CCS does this. They are shorter. They're usually maybe, 3 or 4 or 6, sessions instead of 15 weeks, that kind of thing. So look around your area to find out what's available to you. And as I mentioned, CCS does have online options as well. So maybe other schools do as well. So, okay. And then we encourage you to take some time to really identify what you like to do. I think one of the things we tend to do when we're in high school or, when we're even at work is we sort of put our head down and we just do what needs to get done, right? We have homework, we have deadlines, we have assignments and things that we are working on. And obviously, yes, you need to continue to do those and do well at those. But maybe as you're doing them, if you begin to mentally make note of the kinds of projects or the types of work that or assignments that you really enjoy, because this kind of information and reflection can really help you choose a career path that is going to be satisfying to you. So, things like whether or not you enjoy working on a computer or whether you prefer to create things with your hands, right? Are you more of a of a three-dimensional builder, or are you, working in 2 dimensions on a computer to build something there? Are you a concept person? Are you an idea person? Or are you a get down and make it work kind of person? So I'm going to make mistakes until the thing I'm creating actually functions, right? So that's, whether you're a maker or you're a thinker, conceptualizer, there are absolutely pathways for all of those ways of creating. And certainly there are pathways for people who like to do lots of those multiple kinds of things, right? So I'm not saying that you are only one or the other, but sometimes knowing that you enjoy or get great satisfaction from working with material objects means that you may find more satisfaction in different majors than if you get more satisfaction working on a computer and or modeling characters or vehicles in 3 dimensions, digitally. So really, it's just helping you kind of answer those questions for yourself about what kind of problem solver you are, what kind of projects do you enjoy, and what do you excel at. So we need you to, while you're self-reflecting, and listen, I know this sounds like it's a lot of work, but it really isn't. It's just sort of paying attention to your everyday and making mental notes or even physical notes of these things that you can add to your college folder or your Google Drive or whatever you're using to sort of keep tabs on how you may proceed forward to college. So research and ask questions. Find out which colleges and universities have programs that you're interested in. So I often find that students will rely on the name of a college, which I understand is a good place to begin because maybe that's what you're aware of. But, I encourage you to dig a little bit deeper. You need to look at the different programs that are available at those colleges and universities and to find out how they approach those programs. So for example, if you're interested in graphic design, do you find out which college or university has a graphic design program? You can also then, if they do, say, well, what kinds of graphic design do you specialize in, or do your students create projects in? And you would hope to get answers like, well, we're graphic design, but like CCS, we actually call ourselves communication design. Well, why is that? Well, we include graphic design, but we also include motion design, user experience design, web design, typography studies. So we are much more than quote unquote, just graphic design. And you would hope once you do your research to find out that there's much more involved in a program or a major than you may have anticipated or that you may have been exposed to. And so we're encouraging you to do that research and find programs that give you interesting answers. So if you say, well, I think I've heard of user experience, but I don't really know what that is, then you ask that question, well, what is that? And how do you design it, right? How is that part of a program? So, if they're using new technologies like virtual reality, and they're using new software or current software at least, right? So those are the kinds of questions you want to ask. Do you have new computers in your computer labs? How often are they replaced? How much access do I have to the studios that have that software as a student, as a freshman versus as a senior? Those are all really important questions because you may not have as full access as you think or as that you anticipate. And when you find out the true answer, it gives you the information for you to base a decision on or begin to create a short list of schools that really are going to meet your needs and your interests. So again, find out what kind of facilities, studios, equipment, and access you have to them. I do encourage you to visit virtually, like this session is really, really useful. It's fast, it's easy, you don't have to go anywhere, and it's available to you. And like I said, it's going to be recorded. You can share it with other people, whatever you want to do. But I also encourage you to visit, if you can, in person to your short list of colleges, because the in-person experience is going to help you determine fit, right? So fit is, do I feel comfortable here? Do I feel like this is, my people? Do I feel like I can really be comfortable in these spaces and with this community? Because you are entering a community of people, and that's the hope, right? Not that you're just there, but that you're entering, you're going to participate as a community member. So if you're not sure what to ask when you visit a college or when you're talking with faculty, here are some questions that I encourage you to ask. So what kinds of projects do your students like or dislike? How many students get internships? You can ask about sponsored studios or co-op, or, what are the requirements for internships? Do you have study abroad, and how do your students participate in these projects? And what's the most recent one that has been accomplished? You can also ask questions like what are some recent awards your students have won for the work they've created in your classrooms? You can ask things like, tell me about a project where your students just really surprised you with their solution. And what do you wish students like me would ask? I think that's a really great question, because faculty are awesome with responding to your questions. But they often, feel like they're just sort of feeding you answers, where if you give them the opportunity to tell you what they really would like you to hear, that excites them about their program, that they feel is a really key element of what they do, how they teach, of the student community in that program, it's important to make sure they have the opportunity to share that with you. Okay, so when you're taking classes now, and I should clarify one thing. If you are not taking art and design classes in school, that's totally fine. What we do encourage you to do is to make work on your own fairly regularly and be persistent with it, so that you do have work that you can show in your portfolio when it's time to apply. No one is saying that you must have pre-preparation in a formal classroom setting before applying. We're simply asking you to put the time in to make the work for your portfolio. You're going to find that if you wait until the beginning of your senior year to begin making work for your portfolio, you will be overwhelmed. As you know, if you are already creative or you make things, it does take a lot of time to not only come up with a good idea, but to work through your project, to bring it past, one phase into an edited stage, and then to phase two. So just remember, it does take time, and you should allow that time for yourself to develop those works. So whether it's in class or on your own, doesn't matter. It's just making that time commitment to creating the work. So as you're creating, we encourage you very strongly to document your work and your experiences. So if you use writing and sketchbook or journaling as a way to support your ideas and the creation of your work, we encourage you to do that. You can write those things down. If you're using visual reference, if you are using poetry, if you're using an article or a statement that you found as an inspiration for your work, write it down, and you can include that as part of your process work for the pieces that you're planning to submit for your portfolio. We encourage you to create a title of your work if there's some inspirational tie between the title and your work. Nothing has to be titled, but sometimes titles can support the idea that you're trying to convey. Of course, it's not required, but it is just something to think about. We do encourage you to photograph your work often, even in stages, because as I mentioned, process work before, we do like to see kind of where you began and where you ended up, particularly if those places tend to be a little bit different than, where you thought you were going, you kind of ended up somewhere else. So photograph your work in stages, and you can always decide only to show the final, but you at least have those process documents that you could use if you felt like it provided extra insight or context for your final piece. So we do encourage you, obviously, to save your files, but what we mean by that is back up your files and photos. I unfortunately have met, a number of students over the years who've had horrible incidences where the computer dies, or, with COVID, it was really difficult. Students left school and couldn't have access to their work because it was all on school computers. So make sure that you are saving your image files somewhere that you can access them. If that means carrying around a hard drive with you to school and downloading files, get permission to do that and do that. If it means you are emailing them to your own personal email address that's not tied to school so that you can have those files, do that. So that you have complete control over your own work and you're never in a situation where you can't access them. Okay, so when you're getting ready to apply, like I mentioned, it's around September, October, November of your senior year. Many schools have different deadlines. So you are going to want to research the deadlines for each of the schools you're planning to apply to. Some have as early as November 1st, some are November 15th. CCS, for example, is December 1st is our early action deadline. So all of the schools may have different deadlines, and you're going to want to know those in advance so that you can prepare everything and have everything ready, obviously. So you are also going to need to research your portfolio requirements for each school, because many schools do not have the same requirements for the portfolio. The number of total pieces required can vary. The topics or content of the work that they're asking you to submit can vary. Some schools require drawing in the portfolio, while others may not. There can be portfolio requirements specific to each major that you may be considering applying to. So you do want to do your research and you do want to make notes so that you can, again, edit that portfolio to be specific to the college application. But also, if you need to make something specific to meet a requirement, you want to have enough time to be able to do that. So my recommendation is research portfolio requirements early in your junior year of high school or earlier, so that you can have that in mind as you're working on school assignments or finding time to create work. The other thing we do encourage you to do is to communicate with an admissions counselor at each of the schools you're planning to apply to. I have to tell you, admissions counselors are human beings. Often they are artists themselves. They are very familiar with your position, what you are seeking to do, and the worries and ideas and dreams that are happening, around this whole approach to finding a college that works for you. So talking with an admissions counselor really can just simply open the door for you to get answers to the questions you have, to help you connect with somebody at the school who is going to have your back, and to connect with somebody who is going to be able to advocate for you once your application is received and is going through the review process. So they can also do things like give you feedback on your portfolio work before you apply with it, so that if you feel like you want some feedback, you're not quite sure if this is strong enough or that all the pieces you've selected are strong enough, you can show them to your admissions counselor, and they will often give you feedback right away and say, hey, you know what, these 4 are really, really great. But this one over here, do you have something else? Because this one, the perspective's off, or it's not quite as strong as the other ones. Do you have anything else that might fit here? So they can give you insight like that to help you put your best foot forward with your portfolio. They also are very knowledgeable about all of the programs that they are, all of the majors that they have at their school. And so if you have questions like what's the difference between animation and illustration, or if I want to be a concept designer, what major do I choose? Those are all questions your admissions counselor can help guide you on. And I can tell you that an admissions counselor's answer for one school may be a slightly different answer than you might get from another school, because each of our programs are different. And you're going to learn those nuances and differences if you have these conversations. So the other thing admissions counselors can do is help connect you to faculty or staff on campus that can answer questions you may have. And then also, again, visiting campus when there's an opportunity to meet faculty and staff is a really great way to get additional insight into your programs that you're considering. So just as a really quick review, I wanted to just go through the CCS majors. We have advertising design, building community around action. Art practice is what we call, many other schools call it fine art. We call art practice. Communication design, I mentioned, is often called graphic design at other schools. CCS calls it communication design because we are communicating in a wide variety of design approaches, not just graphically. Crafts is where we have our glass, fiber and textile, metalsmithing and jewelry, furniture, and ceramic programs. Entertainment arts is where we host our animation, our game design, concept design, and film programs. Fashion design is just newly named fashion design. We used to be fashion accessories, but we have added apparel. So now it is a full-fledged, awesome fashion design program. Illustration, we have several pathways through our illustration program, and they include visual development, editorial, narrative, and you can essentially, you choose illustration, and then within that major, you can choose different pathways if you have a particular mode or goal for career-wise to reach through the illustration program. Interior design, is designing spaces for retail, commercial, medical, residential, and all kinds of spaces, if you think about it that way. Photography is obviously photography, but we are teaching both a fine art and commercial approach to photography. Product design is designing the things we use every day, but also designing solutions for problems that the world is facing today, things like clean water, designing new medical technology, and more. And transportation design is at CCS, we are one of the few colleges in the US teaching transportation design, which is not just designing cars, but designing vehicles like cars, large trucks, farm equipment, planes, yachts, motorcycles, all kinds of thing. And in addition to that is also looking at designing transportation systems. Our art education dual program allows you to choose one of the studio majors I just talked about in addition to art education, which means that while you're studying in your 4-year program, you would be also taking art education classes to become an art teacher in the K-12 classroom. So working in the elementary, middle, or high school level programs as a teacher, and it prepares you to take the teacher certification test for the state of Michigan, which can be, is also recognized within the vast majority of US states. This is just some photos of the different studio spaces at CCS. You can see obviously computer labs, our fiber and textile labs, drawing studios, painting studios, individual student studios, and then our transportation design clay modeling studio. We have glass blowing and the other crafts areas, as well as printmaking, and then obviously outside spaces. So I wanted to review the apply steps just to give you a sense of what it looks like at CCS to apply. Certainly other schools may have different processes. We do not use the Common App. We do use our own proprietary application, but it is fairly simple. So to apply, you go to our website. There's an apply link in the upper right-hand corner, and you would complete our free online application. So that is one thing to be aware of. Yes, colleges do charge you to apply to them, but CCS does not. So our online form is free. It is essentially asking your name, birth date, the high school you go to, your address, your contact information, and a little bit of your education history. And then we do need a high school or college transcript. Now, if you are a high school student who has earned college credit, we are looking at your high school transcript, GPA, cumulative GPA, for your admission. We are not looking at the college transcript to admit you. We are simply looking at the college transcript to give you the credit you earned and apply that to your program requirements. So at the time of application, we encourage you to include any college transcripts if you're a high school student, so we can tell you where those credits will come in, but you are not required to submit the college transcript in order to be admitted if you're a high school student. If you are a college student attending a college, we will need the college level transcript for your admission decision, and we will at some point need a high school transcript before you enroll. So in addition to those two items, we do need to see your work, like we've been talking about the portfolio. CCS requires 8 to 12 pieces of work. You can upload them at ccs.slideroom.com. If you use the SlideRoom, there is a $10 upload fee that is payable to SlideRoom. Now, if you prefer not to pay that fee, you can get a review of your work with your admissions counselor. And that's really very simple. It's asking for a review. We can do them on Zoom. We can do them in person. We do have portfolio review opportunities at our open house events and lots of other events for portfolio review on our website under the /visit page. And so I encourage you to do that if you'd prefer to avoid SlideRoom. And then if you are an international applicant whose first language is not English, we will need a TOEFL or IELTS test score as proof of your English language proficiency. Again, a quick review of the deadline dates. December 1st is our early action deadline. February 1st is our priority deadline. And then after February 1st, we do review applications on a rolling basis and admit based on availability in the major you're interested in. And then like the all schools, May 1 is our deposit deadline. So they call it National College Decision Day. And schools do anticipate that students will be confirming which school they would like to attend no later than May 1st. Of course, any school would love to know if you're planning to attend before that. So at any point, you know where you would like to attend and you've been admitted, I would just say, just reach out and say, yep, I'm choosing you, because it allows you to have all of the opportunities tied to admitted student events, again, welcoming into the community and just getting involved earlier. Okay, so I did see that someone posted a question in the chat. I will jump to that in just a moment here. But I did want to give you a couple of resources that you can utilize to begin your research or continue your research. At the link on the left, obviously also our website has tons of information. The QR code here will take you to the tinyurl.com link where there's tons of information that you can utilize as you begin or continue your research. So I am going to stop my share